Hey y'all, real quick, I'm about to go hop in the shower and lay it down, but I got my coffee, which is crazy, right? But I just wanted to hop on because a couple of weeks ago, my daughter turned 8, and right after she turned 8, she got baptized. And so my daughter's godmother came to visit, and we were headed to the church for her baptism. Now, mind you, I am notorious for letting my gas tank light come on, which I know is horrible. You don't have to tell me I know it's horrible. Yeah, but I allow my gas tank light to come on sometimes. And so as we're driving, I can see on my dashboard how much longer I got to go until my gas is gone. And I could also see how many miles I had to go before we got to the church. And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to make it because there's 2 gas stations right there at the church. So if I need to pull over, I can. It'd be good. And so as we're going along, my daughter's godmother, who's sitting in the passenger side, keeps looking at me, kind of side-eyed at me like, what are we doing? She keeps looking at my dashboard. So my mind, I'm like, okay, I know she's judging me. I know she's wondering like when I'm going to stop and get gas. So finally she just couldn't take it anymore. And she's like, hey, are you going to stop and get gas, at some point? And so I'm like, yes, like I'm going to stop and get gas, I got this. And then she says, well, you know that if you keep doing that, you're going to be picking up the debris in the bottom of your gas tank, which could mean that eventually you mess up your engine, or worse, you have to get a new car. And so I don't know anything about cars. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, no, I didn't know that. But thanks for telling me. So now I got to be more mindful and be better about that. But I bring that because I wrote down some notes that I'm going to share with you all that I shared at the Youth Mental Health Conference. It's just this idea of running on E, but more so from a spiritual perspective. So just thinking more about the car analogy, if you continue to run a car with low gas or oil, like my friend said, it starts to pick up the impurities and the dirt that have settled at the bottom of the gas tank. So over time, these particles will damage the engine. And if you don't stop and refill it or get it cleaned, then ultimately you could end up with major repairs or having to replace your vehicle. But that's the same way when we think about our spiritual lives. So when we neglect our spiritual life, when we don't take the time to rest, pray, or practice self-care, our minds and hearts start to pick up the debris of the world. And so that may look like anxiety, self-doubt, fear of the future, or just the stress of trying to do everything on our own. But Proverbs 23 in the New International Version reminds us that above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. So when we ignore our spiritual needs, we allow negativity and impurities to infiltrate our hearts, impacting our thoughts and therefore our actions. And then over time, that particular buildup will start to weigh us down. And so just like a car engine, it becomes harder and harder for us to keep going. In the New International Version, Matthew 11:28, it says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, I will give you rest. And so rest is essential. And so it's not merely physical, but it's also spiritual as well and emotional. So when we fail to rest in God, we risk running on empty, which can lead us to burnout and then exhaustion. So in order to be restored, or the art of restoration, rest is a part of that. So how do we avoid running on empty? Well, one of the most important tools that we have is mindfulness. And so it's the practice of being fully present. It's intentionally filling our spirit and mind with peace and clearing out all of the debris before it can cause any damage. And Psalms 46 and 10, says, be still and know that I am God. And our stillness is where we really have the opportunity to reconnect with God, who will remind us who he is in our present, in that time that we are spending with him and in his presence. And the peace that surpasses all understanding comes from him. And then when I think of mindfulness, I kept thinking about that, and I broke it into 3 parts. So you have mindful and ness. And then when you think about it backwards, that means that it is necessary for us to rest in God in order to have a spirit-filled mind. And so really that's the premise of what mindfulness is, keeping keeping a spirit-filled mind. And most people think it's just a buzzword. But the truth of it is, when you think of your mind in itself as a car engine, it's something that needs that regular care and attention. So when we practice mindfulness consistently, then we are being proactive and paying attention to what we allow into our minds, into our spirits, and into our hearts. So just as an engine needs clean fuel, our spirits also need to be filled with God's word consistently. And so I just wanted to bring that to you all this evening. Hopefully whoever chose to listen to this will get something out of it. But you all have a wonderful evening, and I'll be back soon.